Okay, so last week I was saying that I had my steering put together and I showed various pictures, so you can go back and look at that, see what I was talking about there. And I think I did. I think I was saying last time I couldn't get enough range out of it, and I might have to rebuild some stuff. So I did indeed do that. So if we come over here and look at this screen, share screen, screen one, screen two. Okay, so assuming you can see that, there's the bottom of it here. The problem was up here at the top. Can you see my cursor when I'm doing this? Okay, so uh, between this point, between the axle and the motor here, I have to get a nut that goes on the back of the bolt that goes through here. And after at the end of the last meeting, I said, oh, well, that doesn't fit. I'm going to have to move the motor. So I drilled some new holes and moved the motor down half an inch, or the whole servo down half an inch. And I made this plate on here longer. And so if I put this back straight, you can see these would line up straight across here like it did last week. And when I was playing with it, I noticed that it would get this far. And as I'm pulling, as this plate turns to the right, as I'm pulling on this, that's at we'll call it the bottom dead center of that crank. It won't, I can't pull it any farther. You can't tell by looking at it, because it's got all these weird angles on here, but that's all the farther that wants to go. And that also means it can lock up in that position. I thought, well, that's not really what I had in mind. So I went back and we do this. We do this. Speaker view. So I went back and modified it I modified it like this. So I ended up turning the servo around again. So now the motor is down at this end and the shaft is up at this end. I made a little short plate and moved these ball joints, move them up close to the axle here. And now when I turn it, I can get it to come all the way up to about here when I do that. And I'll show you that in a second. Let's see, what else do I have right here? So I'll just show you that picture, I guess. So that's what I did. I remade those pieces, and let's go back to the screen again. Share screen one here. This one. So here's the thing I was just showing you, and you see if we zoom in here and look at it, you can see that with it cranked all the way to the right, see now I can pull this all the way over to the up against the axle there, and I've got a pretty sharp turning angle there. And the main thing was I just didn't want it where it could mechanically lock up, and then I'd be screwed. So that's why I went to all that work. And now when I'm all done, it turns out that here these two bolts are too close together, and these ball joints are rubbing on each other, which is not what I want. So I'll probably have to go through yet one more time and make another plate and drill a hole out this way and drill a hole out this way to separate those two. And I've got room to do that because you can see on the threads here, I got enough threads that if I separate these out by get like say an 1/8 of an inch clearance between those, that should work. So that I think I'm going to be fairly happy with that. The only problem is I was trying to run it last night. I had it hooked up to a random battery that was laying around. And at first it was moving back and forth kind of slowly. And then it started clicking and chattering. And I noticed the lights on my little servo box were flickering. And I said, oh man, I burned something up or blew something up. And the more I looked at it, I just say, well, maybe just the battery is dead that I have. It's just a random lead acid battery. It was down to like 10 volts or something. And let's see, do I still have this picture here just for kicks? Okay, so anyway, I decided it's probably the battery, and I looked around. That's the only battery I have other than the one that's in Sammy, and that one's big and heavy, and I didn't want to move that around. So I'll either have to get another battery or get a power supply to run the thing from. So that's basically where I'm at right now. So any questions on that?
So you're going to leave the servo pointing, I'm going to say down the way you had it, or you're going to turn it back around?
No, I'm going to leave it the way it is right now because that's the way it has to be, that way to fit in there. So and assuming I can get a nut on that bolt, which it looks like I can. So I think that's pretty much where everything's going to be now. It's just that I have to redo that plate and move those two ball joints apart so they're not scraping on each other.
It definitely looks durable.
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out how durable it is. Could be once it starts moving, it'll just fall apart. So that could be a problem.
Well, I mean, where it joins with the chassis, but you think you said last time you had like 1/8 inch metal or something on there. That should be fine.
Well, part of it is, and part of it is 16th inch metal, but still, it might be okay. We'll find out.
It looks good. I mean, all that mechanical stuff always takes me forever.
It's been taking me forever too.
It all takes me forever.
So that's all I got.
Okay, let's see where that share button is. Let's see. I created a map. I drove around. I moved the 0, 0 position around a little bit. I think it's pretty decent. These are a couple of, I do have a problem with the tractor not showing up here, but we can talk about that in a second. But I mean, so I drove between that building and that fence, and it's looking reasonably like it's in the center. Drove up and around this, and you can see, again, it looks reasonably close to what I would want it to be. Let's see, this one, I do have some adjustments. I mean, this is a set of grass, decorative grass, and I drove up around, and I think I clipped my map a little bit too short, but anyway, I think the converting the pixels to meters and all that is working decently at the moment. So that's what that's one of the things that I got going on. Let's see, what else did I want to mention? Oh, I was playing around with the geonav, and it has this lat long to XY coordinate code, and I moved that into a separate Python file for two reasons. Really, I was thinking, well, maybe I'll see if I can get away from having to bring down that whole repository. Plus, I used it to validate the origin statement. It's up here in the GitHub. No, that's not the one, though. That was reading a parameter that I'll talk about in a second. So this just has one import, and these are the things that I copied out in order to be able to give it 2 lat longs and figure out what the XY distance is between the two. So it's about 140 lines long. And then this was me comparing the lower left lat long of the map and the 0, 0 position, and that's what, it's within a half a meter with what I came up with just visually. So that worked out pretty well.
So instead of using the geonav library, you just copied the code out of that and stuck it in your own program, is what you did?
I did, yeah, because mean, that repository, and it's got so much in it, and it was I was trying to follow code around it was a little bit confusing, so I just sort of pulled that out. It's the GPS to ODOM program that uses that. And then I was messing around with parameters. I was thinking I was going to want to store the last parameter because I'm still thinking about creating a second ODOM topic, one that comes from the wheel and the IMU, so that if I lose RTK, I've got something to go to. But so anyway, I was playing around with parameters and looking at parameters and how to deal with parameters. It had been a while since I had looked at that. There's another program I put out there. Where I just have a text file, what I put a lat long position in, and then I write that parameter out, and then this reads it back in and prints it just to make a full circle. Anyway, so that was just to remind me how parameters work and how to use them in a Python program. What else? So I put my PID, updated the OLED a little bit on the tractor on the TTGO board to display the PI and D settings. So if I have to change that, I can sort of see that on the tractor without having to go back to a laptop or something. So the next issue is to resolve this TF issue. Do another test run, pick some points on the map and ingest a 2D nav goal and see how it does. And in the meantime, also think about creating an ODOM statement from the wheel and IMU data. That's where I'm at. And then you said, yeah, on this TF problem, 3 frames listed are supplied from your URDF manual 11 if it had errors or connection from ODOM to base footprint. Yeah, those are good things to look at. I on the URDF file, my bring up process, let's see, the URDF file is going to be in here. And that at the moment, let's see, where's the best place to go look for that? See how this is getting bloated? See, I hate that. And so I want to like get rid of some of this stuff. I can never quite remember whether it's in navigation or sim. So there's the YAML file. Huh, where's the URDF? I thought it would have been in there. Well, you may have let's see. That's not in there. There's, oh, it's going to be in the so I have to check if that's throwing an error, but that's the That's where it's coming from. Lawn tractor URDF, lawn tractor sim URDF.
Is it at the point where it runs right now, or is it everything turned off?
You mean at this very moment?
Yes.
I mean, I don't think the GPS is turned on. Yeah, I know the GPS isn't turned on. I mean, ROS, I can run ROS, but there's no GPS data to ingest, and it would be inside the garage, so it's not going to get RTK. But I can run it.
Try running it and see how far we get here.
$16.29. Yeah, see, it doesn't like that the I'm just stopping it to see if there's any.
The IMU is complaining about.
The power's turned off to the IMU.
Well, then go back to one of your images that showed your RVIZ screen where it said you had TF errors. Go to the one where you got that expanded out where it says something about status under TF. And right there, that'll give you one right there. So there on the left, can you zoom in on that where it says TF? So you notice it says base footprint, no transform, ... Well, if this was running, if you put your cursor on that, I think it'll expand it out and tell you what that whole line says. So it's probably going to say no transform between base footprint and ODOM is probably what that's going to say. And then likewise on the base link, that's telling you what is not working there. And if you don't, the other option is you can grab that bar in the middle and drag it to the right to make the box on the left bigger, and then you can see more of what's there. But just the fact it says no transform, that's just part of the message. So it's telling you what it can't do. So the one for GPS probably says no transform between GPS and base link, and base link probably says no transform between base link and base footprint, and base footprint probably says no transform between base footprint and ODOM. So the rest of that message you started reading there, I said one of the other problems is possibly your ODOM, your GPS to ODOM publisher is not putting out the transform between ODOM and base footprint. So that's another thing it could be. And then I forgot what the third thing was I said on there. But anyway, keep in mind this TF is a fundamental thing you should always have displayed on your RVIZ. And then when it gives you those messages out there, at least in this case, if you look at those messages, it'll give you a little more information. But just be aware that there's more information there you can look at.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I'm
So are you running this one, or you had something called NEMA to ODOM? Is that which one are you actually running? But at the time, I assume you're running this one, and then you later changed to that new program that you wrote.
yeah, let's see, where did I put it? Well, let's see. Did I check there? I think I checked there. I just had a different GPS to ODOM, and I named it number 2 because I updated the updated the GPS coordinates, and I was going to muck around with it and just wanted to leave the original there. Anyway,
Well, since it's complaining about transforms, one of the things you want to do is fire the system up and do the thing that shows you that transform map, transform tree, whatever that is, and see in there where it's disconnected. I assume it looks to me like you will not have a connection beyond ODOM. So it's going to say map to ODOM. And that's probably all you're going to see on that, because I think, as I say, one of two things: either your GPS to ODOM program is not putting out the ODOM to baselink transform like it's supposed to, or because something's wrong with that URDF file, or the URDF file is not running, or whatever.
those are good things to check. I think what I'll do is hang my antenna out the garage so I can get RTK, and I'll be able to run that. So this is the one where I'm actually running it, or I actually ran the last time, because it's pointing to ODOM 2. It's supposed to be there. Yeah, so that is supposed to lawn tractor navigation. Let's go back there.
Is going to be relatively painless to put your antenna outside and turn everything on, because we could just pause the video and you can go do that when you come back. We could actually run it if you want to do that.
Sure, it's pretty painless. It just takes 8 minutes.
Okay, well, we can put it on pause. When you come back, I'll see you there. So
Okay, I'll be back in a few minutes.
okay.
So Jeff was going to try to help me debug it. I got my GPS connected. Unfortunately, can't seem to get a clean GPS signal ingested into GPS odom.py at the moment. I've got a couple of vague error messages that I need to go chase through. One hypothesis is I've got a printing to a serial port, and it's messing up the driver.py in the geonav set driver. So that's where I'm going to go explore. Back to you.
You might put some extra print statements in that driver, say I got this far, so you can see where it died on that. That might be of advantage. And on that driver where it says, input one line of text from the GPS, then go ahead and print that line on the screen too. And then you can basically watch it run and see where it crashes. That might be of some advantage.
Good suggestions. I have a print statement in there that I just commented out to print the actual sentence. I can just go and comment that.
That'll show you if the data is actually getting in there. And then, but there might be something then later on. But first of all, look at that data coming in and see if it doesn't look valid. If not, that'll tell you if some setting changed in your GPS or whatever. So it might be putting out, something it doesn't quite like. So do that first, and then if that works, then go a few lines down where it's trying to decode that, and then put some more print statements just so you can see. So basically, as it goes through one loop, does it go through one time and crash, or does it crash out in the middle somewhere? So that's just some things you could try on that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm good, Jeff.
Okay, so Terry has joined us in while we're on our pause break there. Terry, do you have anything you want to say?
I'm very, very new to ROS. I'm just loading it for the first time today onto a laptop that I resurrected. My goal is not necessarily agricultural, but I want to have something that will clean my driveway and sidewalk of snow. And so my first phase is going to be resurrecting my old robot and getting it to work with ROS from a localization standpoint. And then my second phase will be to build a second robot that will be a four wheels, I'm guessing a skid steer that will have a rotating brush on the front for the snow removal. So it won't do deep snow, but if it runs frequently enough, since it's going to be battery powered, hopefully it'll be able to keep up with the snow and at least get it off the driveway.
I was thinking about that. You've got such a small area. Your driveway and your sidewalk isn't that big. Just run an extension cord out the thing and power it off 110 volts. In fact, not only could you power your blower, but you could power, a power supply to run your laptop and everything on the thing. So, just plug it in the wall and then turn it on. And so that you got two different ways to think about that.
Yep. If the lithium ion, I mean, right now I'm going to go with the Milwaukee M18 lithium blocks, just because I've got a bunch of them from my drill and other utensils that I did get this handy little thing that gives me the power leads from the battery. So
Where did you get that?
Amazon. I think I got 2 of them for $14. I could not find any that expose all 5 leads from the battery. I noticed that my charger uses 4 of the 5. Basically, they have the battery plus and minus. They have a center one that's for charging the battery. And then there's a data 1 and data 2 that it sounds like use a proprietary protocol similar to the SM bus protocol for battery management. But
yeah, I would think if you do enough searching, somebody has figured out what all that stuff is, and they can tell you, here, hook up this and this and this, and this is the way it works. So, but that thing
I found where where it says what the leads are, but I haven't found anywhere that it says what that data protocol is.
maybe go to Hackaday
But
and look it up.
Anyway, you were going to say about this thing that I held up.
Yeah, the thing you held up, I just assumed you had to make those. I didn't know anybody was making something. You could just buy it off the shelf and plug your battery into it.
It's got three holes already drilled. It's got the two prongs, which are the plus and minus from the battery. And then it's got a fused heavy cable. So I plan on mounting those vertically and then just being able to drop in the batteries. They're the one I've got right now, or I've got a bunch of these. I think they're 3 milliamp hours, not milliamps, 3 amp hour, 18 volt. So I don't expect that would be enough for driving the blower and everything, but at least for my phase 1, it should be sufficient. I may need to have 2 in parallel, but we'll see how long a battery lasts.
You might be careful putting those in parallel. I don't know how well that's going to work. again, go out on the internet and ask people, is that a wise thing to do? So
From the sounds of it, the discharge at in parallel isn't the problem. It's if you try and charge them in parallel. Because then because they've got internal smarts in each battery that manages the charging, and that gets it confused.
well, you can just
And I
pull
plan
it off,
on,
stick them on your other charger. You already have a charger, right? So
right.
okay.
And I plan on putting just an A to D through a voltage divider to measure the voltage to determine when it's getting too low, and hopefully be able to have it send out a ROS message saying I'm now at 30%, and then again when I'm at 20%.
Well, to the degree that it's helpful, I try to take notes as I'm going along, and I just put a link in the chat with where my notes are. I mean, so for example, installing ROS, setting up UDEV rules. There's a few other things out there that might be helpful to you, or again, they're not written with publishing in mind. It's just I take some notes, and hopefully somebody else might be able to save a step or two, so that they're out there.
Thank you.
And Jeff, while Terry was talking, I took that NEMA. It's not even getting to that part where it prints the NEMA sentence, so I'm like really aggravated now. So the parser is blowing up. Maybe there is something else in that stream that the parser doesn't like.
Can you start up just that driver on its own and get it to run, or do you have to run it from that launch file?
I mean, I don't have a launch file to do that yet. I can work on that.
I just wanted to give you better information doing that, but possibly not. If you're just starting it, from a launch file one place or another, I don't think it's going to give you extra information. But what's right in. When you say you started it and it doesn't get to where it's inputting the data, what happens in between there?
Well, let me just share my screen here. I get that, hey, it finished cleanly. But what I was expecting is some sentences triggered by where did that sentence go? This is the driver, not the parser. And I know it was by the checksum thing. Yeah, here's the sentence. So I don't get, it just doesn't get to that point. So I was going to go find NEMA string and see where's the exact absolute earliest that it finds it in this.
Well, you might just want to start at the beginning where it says import your files and then initialize this and this and this, and see how much of that it's getting through. Apparently it's because as you say, you're not getting it's not inputting the data from the GPS, but a lot of stuff had to happen before it got that far. So apparently that's, it's just randomly dying on something it's trying to do.
Yeah, so this add sentence doesn't actually have a reference in this program. So how is that? So it must be like coming from a class or something. Hmm. Well, I'm gonna have to leave it for now and do a little bit more seeing why the heck that's not getting very far. So this class, can I put a debug statement in this class at the beginning of this class? I've not written classes before.
I would think you could. I'm not. I don't.
Maybe inside of this init.
I noticed your two comments there. One of them has the 3 marks at the beginning and 3 at the end, and the comment just below that, you only got the 3 at the beginning. So maybe one of those comments is wrong, and you've commented all your code out. In fact, all the stuff's in pink there. It's probably commented out. Is it supposed to be?
Yeah, that's not my code. That's straight from the driver.
I
See,
mean,
Oh.
it looks like it's the ROS parameters saying what is passed in.
Yeah, I guess that is all supposed to be a comment.
And their line 81 has the ending triple
Yeah.
quotes.
Okay, yeah.
So are you getting that debug statement there
That's
that
a
you just
darn good
highlighted?
question. Let's just go see. Right there.
So it says you got that far, so just go down through the code and figure out what else it's trying to do there. What's it do? It's building a subscriber, building some publishers. So anywhere along the line where it's doing that, you can just put extra statements, say, I got this far, and then you just keep working down until it thinks it's happy. And just see how far you make it through there.
Yeah. So Terry, I just wanted to comment, all of your use cases are fantastic. I think that's awesome. I have a dozen or so use cases in my head too. But I just need to get a vehicle that can drive from point A to point B using ROS, and
Well, that's what phase 1 is to do.
yeah.
Get it to go from point A, follow a route, and return to its origination point. And then I'll build the second robot.
That so anything we can do, anything I can do to help, I'd be happy to. My knowledge is generally captured in the notes, and so you can see generally how far I've gotten based on the notes that I've taken. We'll see if it gets to there. It does get to there. And then it just
Scroll that, go back that screen and scroll that back up to where it said something about GPS shutting down. Where is that coming from? Scroll up, and it was in some colored thing.
tell me if you see it.
Right there at the top, it says GPS ODOM shutting down. Scroll back up so we can see what was in front of that. The very top line, you can see there.
No, here's the command.
Yeah, I know, but above it says there's that line in yellow. What was happening at that point?
Probably me pressing Control-C.
ODOM, GPS ODOM. So that's not the driver, that's the but it's the driver that's failing, seems to be at this point.
All I know is it gets to this point, and then I think it's the parser. But I've gotta add some more statements here to figure that out.
Okay.
And I'm not sure So that ran. And that, oh, is that supposed to be that color? Yeah, that's in the qualities. See, so this is still running. If I press Control C, that's when the GPS ODOM shutting down occurred. Well, I've got to that. And then finishes cleanly. I hate when that happens. So these are, I don't know what the right Python language is, a function or
That looks like the kind of the reddish there, that's a comment.
no, I was this. Like if I put it's not getting to this, right? So there's no output from that. And as far as the routine goes, I'm not sure where it goes to next.
I believe main.
So that line that said add statement, is that, you say that's not ever referenced anywhere else in this program?
Add statement. If I do a find on that, I don't see it. It doesn't, I get no hits.
Add sentence.
See, 1 of 1.
So when you do your imports, is there something that's, so
Or this program is not mine. This is a ROS deal, but here are the imports.
from parser. So I was thinking that in that parser then that they're importing is probably where it would be calling that add sentence. I seem to recall going through this one time, a long time ago. I don't remember now.
Yeah, so I'm in the parser. I'm looking for add sentence, no results.
I would think it would be above the parser, and then something would call the driver, do the add sentence, and then call the parser.
Yeah, that probably makes sense.
And so this, go ahead.
So what instantiates the driver?
Yeah,
Or
I was just gonna go look for that. I have forgotten to answer your question.
Scroll all the way to the bottom of this file. That's where it's going to say main and start everything up, I think.
Yeah, it has orthodon.
Yeah, this is probably getting called by something else. So yeah, I don't know.
Come on, you're the master programmer of this outfit, Jeff.
Well, I'm not, but to back up here, the stuff you're showing us right now, is this changed from last time you're running it, or
No, not at all. I
is
haven't
this the
touched it.
exact same stuff that you're running?
The only thing I've putzed around with in this driver is adding these comments so I can figure out what it's doing.
Huh.
But this,
So the only other thing that might have changed, as they say, if we were printing out those messages and we decided that possibly that the B and the carriage return line feeds are actually that's being added by your Python. It could be that for some reason your GPS has decided to change the output format enough that it's just confusing everybody. But it seems like your drivers here should say, oh, well, gee, that's invalid, and at least print a message telling you got a problem there. That seems odd that.
Yeah, I don't. So to answer the question on in where it gets instantiated, this is the launch file, and it's firing up, inside of this package that, and this is the file structure that shows that. This is all ROS code. And so there's these, where is,
Look in the navsat driver.
well, the navsat driver, this is the, this is the whole package, right?
Okay, where's the doc say?
Ask that a different way. I didn't understand.
I see that there's that doc. I'm just wondering if it says.
I've never actually looked at this stuff. I don't know what an RST file is. Yeah. I probably need 200 lines of code out of this whole thing. And
What you might try is exit out of ROS, shut down any ROS windows you got running, and just do another cat can make and see if that fixes things.
now that's a darn good idea, because I have, let's see.
And it could be something in ROS isn't shutting down. You've got some extra windows open you don't realize. So make sure ROS is completely dead before you. And then if something is still running in ROS, make sure everything's killed. I suppose you could go out and do a PS-EF and grep for ROS and see what. Does that make sense?
That is an awesome idea, because this Jetson nanobot, I was looking at this guy's stuff on creating the second ODOM, and his cat can make statements were just rebuild mine. And so I have been running cat can make just to create this. And I wonder, you could be definitely onto something.
Did you change any of your source statements? So if you're running somebody else's stuff, like in your bash RC where it says source something Catkin workspace.
Yeah. Haven't touched my bash RC. But I think it's a good suggestion anyway, to go back and do another cat can make. And see what we get.
So before you do that,
Oh,
never mind.
What were you going to say?
I was gonna say do a PS-EF pipe to grep -I space ROS, and they'll tell you anything that if there's any ROS processes running, those should show up. So do PS-EF space pipe space grep space -I
Dash I.
space, this is ignore case, then say ROS. And do that. What's that show you? So that's there's nothing running that has the word ROS in it. So ROS is probably completely shut down at this point.
And so
And that just simply said, that's the command you just typed in. That's why it's saying, oh, I just ran a command grepping for ROS. So that doesn't tell you anything right there other than
Got
says,
it.
yes, you just ran that command. So go do your cat can make again and see what happens. And is this, so it worked?
Nothing blew up.
If I'd say try it again. If it doesn't work, then go back and delete your devel file and your whatever. Do a list right there.
Do a list.
An LS right there. So it's the build directory and the devel directory. If you delete those and do a cat can make, it rebuilds everything. So so go ahead and try your GPS thing now. And if it doesn't work, then go delete those two directories and do a cat can make.
Same. It got after. It went someplace and died.
You do say, it does say message is missed 0. So is that coming out of the same program, or do you know where that's coming from?
If I do not know where that is coming from. If I go back to driver. It's not in driver. It's not in parser. Ah, son of a buck.
That's why it's always handy on those messages you print out, put the program name, in that, so you know which program is putting those out. But so now you got the problem. You started all this crap up. You don't know which program was saying that. So, possibly digging through your log file, it might tell you which program actually put that out. But so anyway, back to the thing we're talking about before. If you go back to your screen where you're doing the make, and right there, if you do an LS, just so you can see what's there, just type LS there.
Yeah, that's.
And see on the left there, it says build and devel directories. So remove both of those. You can do an RM space dash RF. No. Let's see. Dash RF space build. And then do the same thing for devel. In Linux, you might be able to put both of those on, just say build space devel. It might do them both. Now do your cat can make, and it's going to probably take forever to do it, but that cleans out all any other crap that might have shown up from, that other stuff you're playing with. So while this is running, I'll just point out Terry is also here in Minneapolis, so he's got the same amount of snow I have right now, and I've gone out 3 or 4 times in the last few days and shoveled snow, and I've got another 4 inches of snow on the ground since yesterday. So that would be real handy to have a lot or a snow blower. Say go take care of it for me.
I had to get up at 4:30 so that she wouldn't be driving over the snow and packing it in the driveway.
I will tell you, I happened to be in Pittsburgh. I happened to meet a guy who invented, amongst other things, CPAP machines. And I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. What are you working on now? And he wants to remove snow with, you say a snow blower, literally an air powered, not the rotating, shoot it out, but just blow it with
High pressure air.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, Terry, do you have an air compressor?
I do.
What's that complaining about on the screen? Is that buried in NumPy that it's so blah blah blah? Never mind. But yeah, you try that. Take a hose out and get one of those blowers and see if you can just blow the snow away. Because not only could you drag an extension cord, you could drag your air hose behind you and just have it drive around blowing the snow off that way. Somebody else said use a leaf blower. Do you have a leaf blower?
I do. And
Well-
I've tried that before and it's not strong enough.
Yeah, because the snow we have right now, at least yesterday it was light and fluffy and not
Right.
wet at all. So that you might be able to use a air like a leaf blower on that.
But the snow that we had last week was very heavy.
Yeah, yeah.
So it will take more than air to get that going.
Well, gentlemen, don't feel compelled to sit here and watch this, but if this doesn't work, I'm like, I'll put some statements in that parser and see if I can figure out where this daggone program.
Is there a way to kind of pause it and look at what the call stack is?
In like a debug mode sort of thing?
Yeah.
I've never seen that in ROS. Jeff, have you?
Well, down at the Python level, you might be able to do something, each one of these, it's a Python program, you might be able to do something in there. That's why I was asking, could you just start it up on its own? Because you might be able to go in and run it more manually too, but I don't know. I don't know that much about Python. I fight with it anytime I try to do anything. Oh, one other comment. I keep going back to that. You have that little Python program that reads the GPS and prints the line out. And I said it looks funny. But in all your documentation, do you have a screenshot of where you've done this before, where you ran that program and got the output? And does it look the same way, or has that changed on you in the last couple days? So you've got tons of documentation and logging stuff. I just wonder if when you said I created this program to dump out the GPS, did you cut and paste it in there so we can see what it looked like before? Because it is very possible it's just Python putting that extra stuff on there. But
I seem to remember seeing that B apostrophe, and that indicated, I thought, like what the data type was.
it could be that's all it is, yeah. But then I was noticing buried in there is the carriage and line feed, which they are inside. So what?
These are not using that GPS.py read line, print line. This is coming out of the driver program, the comment, the sentence I uncommented that it's not getting to.
Yeah. But I thought that'd be a quick way to verify if you did have an actual output from that program you'd run before. You could just quickly compare the two. But if you don't have it, I guess that's not going to solve all the problems.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long ago I wrote that. That's something I didn't provide much documentation on. That's just a copy of the program.
And on Python, when you're doing a print, there's all kinds of clever things you can do to say what you want it to come out. So possibly you can get rid of the extra, that B, because the apostrophe says everything within that is a quoted string. And then at the end, it probably had another quote to end that. So it's very possible that the B is telling you something, but I would assume that meant it was binary, which it seems it might be binary because of the way just your 4 or 5 lines of code you wrote there. That's how you got it to work. But So that's just a thought that maybe there's something funny there with that.
If I cleaned out all of those unneeded libraries, this wouldn't take so long.
Well, I was just thinking that some of those unneeded packages, like, you know, all the simulator stuff, you know, you loaded all kinds of crap in here that you could probably make separate, you can probably make separate workspaces, and that way, you know, when you make something new, you can have a separate workspace for it. So you don't have to compile everything at the same time. Yeah, you also might run into problems with all this stuff in the same workspace that, you know, things are going to eventually start conflicting. You know, you compile it and then it's going to be trying to use the wrong libraries or whatever. So that could be another problem.
Yes, I will definitely make liberal use of separate workspaces going forward. It goes back to well, see this Hector gazebo, that I'll put your stuff in a separate workspace. I call it your stuff. Well, this is like watching paint dry, gentlemen.
It'd be nice
A little bit faster.
if it told us how fast it was, you know, what it was. Is that 32% on the side? Does that mean of the entire process, or it'll probably then it'll pop up and say, oh, starting at 0 again. So, well, that's other interesting things to look at.
My recollection is it's the whole process, because it's in the building phase.
Yeah, so it's a third done, and yeah, all that Hector stuff that is building, that is way too much stuff for, you know, since you don't need any of that right now. That would be nice to get rid of that stuff. I tend to dump extra stuff in my workspace, but usually it's, you know, what I'm trying to do at the moment. But at least on my robot computer, it's down to the point. It just has basically what it needs to do that. And there, I think I had a separate workspace for that simulator and that stuff too. So, and somebody that does this all the time could probably tell you, oh, do it this way. This is the way you should be doing it. And as I was telling Terry before, I don't do enough ROS anymore to even know, you know, what's the best way to do it, or when something fails, you know, I just know how to poke at it and hopefully try to fix something. So
Terry, in this file, there's people who have put out some pretty decent educational tutorials. If I were starting again, I would look at some of these guys.
Okay, where was that again?
It's project support files, and it's ROS robot creators.
Okay,
It's out on,
he posted that link to chat that tells where his GitHub support
Right.
files is. So under
Right.
that is what he's saying.
yep, I've opened it up and actually bookmarked it.
yeah, I think ROS is getting to the age where there's more and more people that are making videos about it, and so there's a few that have stood out to me that are pretty well done.
So I'd say when this is done building, try your driver again. If it still doesn't work, I guess you're just going to have to poke through it and figure out why the two are no longer happy with each other.
Okay. I think that's it.
One other minor point, when you run that Python program that puts out the NEMA sentences, you know, verify that and your driver are both talking to the same device. You know, you said you had it renamed, you had a UDEV file to rename it to GPS. make sure that they're both make sure one of them is not trying to listen to the IMU and the other one's actually displaying stuff from the actual GPS. And when I told you to do that cat on the device name, well, it turns out since this is a USB type device, like a USB 0 type device, you do have to specify a baud rate. So in order to get that cat to work, somehow you have to go out and say, go to that port and set the baud rate and then do the cat and get it to come out. But if it was like what's the other one, like a TTY 0 type port, no, ACM, it's an ACM 0 type port. That one, there's no baud rate involved. So you can say cat and whatever's there will show up on your screen.
Do you know what? So do you know the syntax?
No, I don't. So if you just go search for Linux port, maybe Linux command line port baud rate, it might tell you how to do that. But say in here you've specified the 115. So right there, keep in mind that says dev TTY USB 0, but you said you had an alias to GPS. So is that a difference?
I haven't changed that, but it definitely should be changed.
Because TTY USB 0 might be something else you're talking to right now. Go back and do your dev list again. So somewhere you're gonna have, there's an ACM 0 TTY. Do the same thing, but put slash TTY asterisk on it, so you won't see quite so much junk there.
Slash TTY.
Yeah, asterisk. So, okay, you've got a USB 0 and a USB 1 out there. So it could be that. See, how do we know what GPS? Say LS GPS. What does that do?
Well, I think you have to put dev in front of it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, do that. I just wonder if it's going to tell us what that's linked to. So how do you do that? Say ls maybe dash al slash dev slash GPS. There's your problem. That's pointing to USB 1, and your Python program is pointing to USB, or your thing you're running is pointing to USB 0. So change that to GPS, and that will probably solve your problems.
Why did you make me do that?
Do what, the rebuild, or or you mean why did I make you put the wrong stuff in there?
Yeah, why'd you make me put the wrong stuff in there?
Well,
He's giving you an education opportunity.
Yeah, there you go. Wow, well said. Oh, so well said.
Although the debugging steps that we just did should, you probably won't remember them next time, but and the reason why this is happening is because you created that UDEV rule and said somehow you said when you plug in the GPS you want it to be called GPS, but now you've got a USB 0 and a USB 1, so you've got two devices plugged in that show up as USB devices, and the GPS figured it out and points to the right one because your Python program proves that, but your other program is pointing to the hard-coded USB 0, which is somebody else. So that's.
I don't know what else I've.
So it's devices you got plugged into the computer is what happens. So if you have, say, I think the like Arduino Nanos will come up as a USB 0 USB type device.
And so the reason we're getting all this output is because now it's getting to that
What are we looking at here?
These are the NEMA strings that it's ingesting.
So it finished and it's actually running now?
Yeah.
Well, then you should be right back to where we started. So then you could fire it up and go look at RVIZ and see why your transforms aren't working.
I didn't type something right. What did I not type right? ROS topic. Oh, topic.
Oh, never mind. I was gonna say, oh, there it is right there in front of us. I guess we already looked at that. That's how we knew it was wrong. So
Yeah, and we're getting RTK too, because that's a status too.
so I would say at this point, fire up a window and do your print out your frame tree, whatever that's called. I forgot how to do that. View frames or whatever that was. Yeah,
Oops.
that.
Well, I don't have the full stack running yet, but we'll see what it says. Beautiful. And get better than that.
That does probably look correct. So I'd say fire up the whole thing and see if it's still complaining. So I'll ask Terry, did you go through the ROS tutorials out on the ROS wiki?
Not yet. I was wanting to have a version that I could play with.
And you'll find when you say a version, well, it turns out you're probably gonna end up reloading this stuff multiple times because you'll get so far and think, oh, this doesn't work anymore. So your TF is not complaining now.
But I don't, let's see. You're right, it's not.
So zoom in on that spot right there. And that looks like your TF markers there. So one of those is going to be map and ODOM on top of each other. And one of them, probably the one right in the lowest one there, that's your actual vehicle. So let's see, let's go look. Do you have, so if you just turn on your robot model, it should show up on top of that one down there. Just on that, back on RVIZ, just set the check mark that says display robot model. Yeah, right there.
I'll be darned, there it is.
So it's
Purdy.
not where I expected it to be. Oh, I see the one down below, that is your 0 point. That, so if you look at that, that's map and ODOM. No, the one down below, that's going to be map and ODOM on top of each other. And then the one on base link back behind your axle. And then the GPS is out on the front, apparently. Is that where you want your GPS? On yours, it's actually back closer to the back, isn't it?
You mean physically on my tractor?
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be moved back, but I mean, this is you're playing with jarts here, close enough.
Okay.
But yes, it needs to be back here.
But normally I would run with your robot model turned off and look at your TF data so you know where things are. Yeah, the robot model is really just hiding the stuff that you, at least at this point, you really need to know where those markers are as you drive around. So that right there where it shows 0, 0, is that the point in between those two walls there? Is that where you expect that to be?
It was a coarse level of accuracy, but yes, directionally, yes. I mean, it doesn't, I mean, we could make it anywhere, right? But it just happens to,
I believe so, yes.
it just happens to be.
I'm just wondering, the point where you wanted it to be, is that the way it showed up on the screen there?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So just out of curiosity, is that inside your garage, the tractor right now? Or
It
is
is.
or is your antenna just simply laying out in the driveway? Is that why it shows the tractor out there?
Well, the antenna is about right here. But remember, GPS ODOM, the program, has hard coding in it.
Wait a second here. You see your antenna is down there below. Is that your reference antenna or the vehicle antenna?
The vehicle antenna, I have I don't know, a 30-foot cable extension that I pushed under the garage door and moved the antenna over here.
So I would expect your vehicle to be on top of where your antenna is sitting right now. But maybe not.
Well, let's fire up the rest of this stuff and see.
Oh yeah, you don't have everything running, do you? Okay. So once you do, then maybe that'll fix it. You may not want to rely on those numbers being permanent forever. You might be better off copying the whole command line. Or you can do a list and then look at to see, you know, what, or excuse me, do a history each time and then type the number. But just to warn you, those numbers are going to change over time.
Thanks for that. Yeah, why is that not where the antenna is?
I would think if you pick up your antenna and carry it around, your tractor should follow you. You know, that's I think the whole point of what we're trying to do here.
Do you want me to run downstairs and move the antenna and see what you see?
Well, could do that.
Do you mind hanging on?
Well,
I've got some time, but I'm gonna go grab a drink.
okay,
Go
well,
grab a drink.
I'll put it on pause then and see if we see it start moving, then we'll unpause it so we can see what's going on.
Okay, I'll be right back.
I thought I did, and
We can see he's carrying the thing around.
I
now.
see it's moving. Yep. But
Which
it
is-
looks like it's offset since I doubt he's walking through the wall.
Yeah, he said he's going to go down below and walk around. So it's either I don't know. But anyway, this is a good test to do, so he can do this later and see as he moves that around. So we'll see if it moves back when he's done. Because the whole point of what he's doing, he's receiving a GPS position and then saying that's where the vehicle is on the face of the earth. So his vehicle should be showing up wherever his antenna is. And I'm guessing that's not working right. So either it's his angles are wrong, or at least it's talking to it, because you know the thing did actually move. So when he gets back here, he'll tell us where he moved it, and we can see where it's supposed to be. Now, just to go a point beyond that, people will normally take their wheel odometry and their IMU and a bunch of other things and merge them all together in order to figure out where they are in the world. But people have figured out if you just take the GPS, if you got an accurate GPS, you just simply read that and say that's where I am. So you're bypassing all the other crap. So that's what he's trying to do right now. He's just taking the actual location from GPS and putting his tractor on the ground at that point. So that's what he's attempting to do.
How accurate is he getting with that GPS, and what's the cost of the unit?
Well, I could answer that, or I can let him answer that.
I think it's within a centimeter or two.
That's good enough for me.
I wouldn't buy what I have again, because I spent a fair amount of money on the one that I have. There's less expensive. Who's the outfit? Ardu Simple, making RTK units.
And that's what I'm running. So the one Al has was around $2,000, and the one that Kyler has, Kyler's the guy that makes the autonomous tractors, and he's got like 10 or 20 different GPSs he's paid anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a piece for. And at Danfoss, we started off one that cost us $18,000, and we bolted on. It worked great, but it was $18,000. So that was somewhat of a problem. So one I'm running, you can buy the board for $200, and then I and various other people decided to spring for the survey grade antenna. So that's another $100. So for $300, you can get 1 to 2 centimeter accuracy. And for correction data, I just use the Department of Transportation correction server that's free. So you don't need a base station to do that. But it's still going to run you. That's going to run you $300, or you can go with the previous version that'll run you $75, but you have to then run a program called RTK Lib on a computer to crunch the numbers for you. So that way you can get a $75 receiver and a $10 antenna, but it takes longer for it to lock on, and it's just more of a pain. I prefer the $300 version that I've got now. That seems to work well. You turn it on, it pops right up, and it's accurate and works quite well.
Okay.
So what I can tell by looking at this is my origin statement needs some more adjustment, because the antenna is physically about right here.
Yeah, we were watching you do that, and it started off at the point where it was, and it kind of moved up. It moved up a little bit, and then we can see you walking over, and you stopped in the middle of that wall right there. So we didn't see you walk down or anything. That's just simply is that basically what you did? You just picked it up and
Split it 20 feet east.
Straight,
More or less.
because it looks like, besides not going straight, it actually moved up as you did that too. So you might have something wrong with your angles, or I don't know.
Well, there's a couple of cars in the driveway too. It could have been deflection. I could have lost RTK for a second.
No, it's basically, I could see you pick it up and walk over there. But part of that, when I first started moving, I turned the recording back on so you could go back and watch that and see what it did. But so anyway, that's the whole concept. Before you start trying to do autonomous driving, you got to make sure all these little things, line up, and you can control it, and it's not lying to you, which it seems like right now something's lying to you as far as where the position is. You just got to figure out, why that's happening. But it does indeed seem to be following your antenna. So your vehicle did move as you move the antenna. So that's a good sign.
And my TF is where it needs to be. So yeah, I just need to get out in the yard again and get this map more correct.
What's TF?
Jeff will do a better job than I will.
TF stands for transform. So it should be T. It shouldn't be TF. It should be T. But transform is, they've got this system in ROS that lets you, they have what they call coordinate frames. So your vehicle has a coordinate frame. The world map has a coordinate frame. All these different things, and your GPS has a coordinate frame, and you're basically layering those all on top of each other. So in order to find out the difference in location, the X, Y, and theta location between two different frames, they created this concept called TF. So they've got a program that calculates all these transforms. So instead of doing, 3 pages of code to do this, they just wrote up a system that will keep track of all these different things in the world all the time. So at any point, you can go out and use a command and say, what's the difference between where my GPS receiver is and the map origin is, or what's the difference between the GPS and the box that I have out in the world that's laying over by the building. So it's just a quick way to keep track. That's how you keep track of where things are in relation to other things in the world. So this thing he's showing here, this is the transform tree. So at the top, it says that's your map. That's like actually your main point. You're going to put that at 0, 0. And then from there, you go down to the odometry transform. And the odometry transform is a way to, that's a way to give you an offset from map. Now, what he's done right now in his code, he just said that ODOM is on top of map. So he created what's called a static transform broadcaster that says put ODOM directly on top of map and leave it there. So those two are going to be linked together, but you have to have them show up in the program because things are expecting that. So if you're running AMCL, which is adaptive Monte Carlo localization, that's an extra program you can run that will compare, say, a laser scan to the map. And if the two don't line up, it will nudge this odometry marker around to correct for where you are. So if he wasn't going directly off his GPS like he's trying to do here, then this odometry marker would be moving around. But in his case, it will not. It will stay right on top of map. So then he's got another program called, see right there in the middle, it says, right under ODOM, it says broadcaster is /GPS ODOM. So that's taking in your latitude and longitude from your GPS, and it does some calculations, and then it says, so from ODOM, which is currently at 00, it takes the GPS latitude and longitude, converts that to an XY offset, and then says that's where your base footprint is. So that says that in the world, that's where basically the antenna is going to be located, or that's where it's going to put the vehicle out there. Now, technically, see, I'm a little confused. I never figured this out because at the bottom, his GPS is where the antenna is located, yet it goes back and updates this ODOM marker, the difference between ODOM and your base footprint. So that's something we're going to have to deal with sometime in the future, figure out is that right, or do we need to add some more offsets in there or something. But basically, back to the point, TF is just a way, that's a fundamental thing in ROS to keep track of, fundamental in robotics. How do you keep track of, say, like if you had a robot arm and here's an elbow and here's a wrist and here's a shoulder, each one of these would be a different coordinate frame. So each one of those points, you want to know from this point to this point in 3D space, how do you get there? So at any given point here, you have to be able to calculate those positions. They just give you a quick way to do that. In fact, it does it automatically in the background for you. So you don't have to go through and specifically say, calculate this, calculate that. And it's just keeping track of that stuff all the time.
Cool.
So as you're displaying this transform tree here, as I say, I just realized, well, your GPS is down at the bottom, yet it's taking that and somehow updating the position of ODOM all the way back here, or it's updating the difference between ODOM and base footprint, and not really updating to GPS. But as close as the two are together, it probably doesn't matter. But in reality, that's a thing. When I was driving around in my yard saying, here's the front antenna and the back antenna, and how do I know, how do you figure out the difference between those? And it comes back to that same concept. You may or may not have to correct it for this by the time we're done.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking as you were talking about it. I mean, I have an IMU. I could put a joint here for the IMU. I think this will always be here to base link. But we're just making two uses out of GPS. I don't know what the right way is, but
and as he adds, so if he adds IMU onto there, it would be under base link. That would just be another one, because base link is your main reference point on your vehicle. On this type of vehicle, it's halfway between your back wheels and the radius up from the ground, half the radius of your tire up from the ground. So it's just to find a 3D point on your vehicle that you're going to reference everything else to. So on here, it says you got base link, and then he's got his GPS, and I see the numbers aren't actually telling us there, but somewhere you specify, you measure how far ahead and how far left and right and how far up and down is the GPS from base link. And you put those numbers in there somewhere, and that will keep track. That keeps track of that. So basically, then if you put an IMU on there, then you go measure where the IMU is. And again, it keeps track of that to base link. So anything on the vehicle is referenced back to base link. And then the base footprint is simply the it's base link here just projected down onto the ground. So basically you're subtracting vertically, subtracting off the wheel diameter or wheel radius. And then, so to the world, the difference between ODOM and base footprint is where your vehicle is going to be. And then on the vehicle, well, base link is just referenced up from the ground to tell you where that point is. And then everything on the vehicle is referenced back to base link. And this, it's basically, you just have to figure out once and put all the numbers in to make that work. And then, you know, if you start modifying things later, it will become, it will become more obvious. And while I was sitting there looking at this stuff, I just noticed all the numbers on here seem to be zeros. That's, but it says the broadcaster GPS ODOM, well, it says the average rate, buffer length, most recent transform. I'm hearing weird noises. Oh, well, anyway, what was I saying? Blah, 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 blah.
You're hearing things.
Before I was hearing things, I could see there's various numbers showing up, and I'm not sure what those actually are there. I thought it was going to give us an XY offset to tell us how far we were from our reference, but it's not telling us that. It's just telling, as the thing's running, it's telling us information about what's going on. So I'm hoping that noise I'm hearing is somebody with a shovel out front doing something and not squirrels or rats or something in the house. But
so I appreciate you guys' time and help debugging that simple change. I think it must have, I plugged in a USB Ethernet connection because I wasn't getting very good Wi-Fi out in the yard and wasn't able to remote into the computer, and I bet that screwed up my USB references. So anyway,
and that'll always come back to bite you, and that's why people use UDEV rules. If you can figure out how to identify that, it's what always comes up the same way. It doesn't matter whatever else you plug in there. And you already knew that. It's just that for some reason you didn't put the renamed name into your code, and that's why it was doing that. So at this point, you're up and running. Everything's working right. It's just that you have to figure out why you're not in the right spot now.
Yes, a continuation of tweaking the map and getting it to, I mean, it's figuring that out, getting it right.
And at this point, if you don't have a lot of snow on the ground, you might be able to say, give it a 2D nav goal and see if it will move. But you know, it's still, you know, it's not right. So it might be, you know, eventually you're gonna have to figure out why it's not where it thinks it is. So that, but you're so excited about getting it to move, it might actually move at this point. Just
yeah, I need to do
be on your
work on
e-stop
that.
button. Make sure you got the e-stop ready.
I need to do some work on the low-level controller because I don't, my mode switch on my remote control, I haven't programmed that yet to take messages from ROS. So at the moment, it only handles manual steering. So more coding.
Okay.
Fun till her daddy takes the T-bird away.
Yeah.
Well,
Guys,
I need to
thanks for
get
your time.
going. I've got some things to do. So
We'll talk to you later.
have a good one. Thanks, Jeff.
How come I can't stop the recording?